if you allow me, I'm just going to take 15 minutes to go over some of the waste streams that have been more problematic over the years here in the state of Florida and kind of show you what we've been working on and what we may be working on in the near future. First off, I know, David, you said you were a marriage broker. Well, I'm a waste matchmaker. And if you allow me, I want to show you our 30-second elevator pitch.
It's modern-day matchmaking with a twist. The Southern Waste Information Exchange, or SWIX, is a waste matchmaker, putting waste generators in touch with potential waste users, encouraging recycling and reuse of waste materials. In operation since 1981, the Waste Exchange hosts a database of available and wanted items, a veritable Craigslist for wastes, finding markets for traditionally discarded materials. Groups with waste materials can list their availability, while users can list the types they need. If you're looking to reduce your disposal costs, let SWIX help you by marketing your materials. Our goal is reducing your disposal fees, and our waste matchmaking services are free. Call or email today for more information on how we can help you spin gold from your unusable leftovers.
Real quickly, what we try to do is we act like a waste matchmaker, putting waste generators in touch with waste users to encourage recycling and reuse of waste materials. Henry, you showed a couple of slides from the website, thank you, earlier. We basically do that in a couple of different ways. We have a database built into our website allowing companies to go in and list materials that are available, wanted, or if you provide a service in the waste arena, you can do that free of charge. We receive a line item from the state of Florida to assist Florida industry in that realm. So this is an example of a listing that has come through. Hang on. Other types of materials that we have experienced uses for here recently, and a lot of what I'm going to show you right now is going into the cement industry. Got a lot of problems with mixed 3 through 7s occurring throughout the state, throughout the country for that fact, because of the Green Fence Initiative. And so that has led to the creation of a lot of material that's been sitting in somebody's yard. And so we've had some success in the northern part of the state dealing with this issue and having this material go to a cement kiln to be used for fuel. Very high in B2 value. And provides a great fuel source for the plants. Majority of the cement kilns in the United States, they burn, 95% of them, burn coal to produce their power to run their kilns. And there is a huge increase or interest among the kilns to try to reduce the amount of coal that you're using. And so they're looking for alternative fuels. And so I've been asked to assist them, SWIX has been asked to assist them in identifying other sources that they can bring in to do that. This is one example of it. Other things that we have done are off-spec, various types of plastics that have been generated that may be cross-contaminated with various other waste streams. Just imagine this, the picture that you see there on the left is a bale of snorkels that was generated here in Orlando from a company, and they didn't have a market for the material. I ended up sending up, helping get the material up to Swanee American Cement, which is Branford, which is about 20 miles, 30 miles northwest of Gainesville. And Swanee took these and shredded them up along with the material that you see there on the right. These are purges from various manufacturing operations. Again, great BTU value. Other things, manufacturing trim. These are coffee bag trims that come from a large manufacturer here in the state. Again, a great fuel source that typically doesn't have a very good market for it because of the cross manufacturing and the various types of films that are incorporated into those bags. A variety of types of other mixed plastic films that have been generated from some of the C&D MRFs throughout the state. We talked a little about, or somebody asked the question about pallets. Well, what do you do if you've got these pallets? Where do you go with them? We've had success over the years in running what we call a pallet cooperative, where we will bring in a pallet recycler to drop a truck in a given area and then work with small quantity generators of pallets to bring them to a central location to load up and send them back to the pallet recycler. Ray, if you remember back in this is probably the early 2000s, 2000 I think 2 to probably 2004, we did a number of different collection events with the city of Tallahassee and Leon County for Earth Day. And so one of the things that we collected at that point was pallets, and we brought in a company called Pallets South in South Georgia to drop trailers, and we did the same thing. We collected pallets, electronic waste, aluminum cans, and books, and I'll show you a little bit more about that, what we're currently working on. So there are options related to pallets, and I've got a couple of good pallet lists of the pallet recyclers throughout the Southeast, so if anybody wants to know where to go with their pallets, you can get in touch with me, and my information will be on the back of, or included in the proceedings. Again, electronic waste, a number of different companies in operation throughout the state right now that can deal with this. If anybody has problems in trying to find solutions for that, we can put you in touch with the folks that are providing those services. This is a picture of tomato field, and in the growing of tomatoes here in the state of Florida, as well as strawberries, they use a process called plasticulture. They put down it's a black plastic or a white plastic. Sometimes it's a silver plastic, and you'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. But it is a plastic film that goes on the ground to grow the vegetables, whether it be a strawberry or a fruit, or a tomato, or a couple of other things like bell peppers, watermelons. Well, at the end of the growing season, that material is disposed of. There's roughly 40,000 tons of this material generated annually here in the state of Florida, and the majority of this stuff, hard to believe, is going up in smoke. And you say, well, Gene, what do you mean going up in smoke? You can't burn that stuff. Well, yeah, you can. There's an exemption in the 1988 Solid Waste Act that allows the farmers to burn this material in place at the end of the growing season. This is a picture of a tomato field, and pay attention to that what you see in the very center is agricultural film being used. That's black film. In the lower right-hand corner, you see this is aluminum oxide film that they were doing some experiments with, and it helps spur the growth of tomato plants because the sunlight hit it and it bounces back off of that film, comes into the bottom of the leaves, and it enhances the growing of the tomatoes. Typically, the way the film is managed is it is pulled by hand. It is typically baled up somewhere or piled up somewhere on somebody's back 40. Or in small little piles like this, where is then add a little bit of diesel fuel on it, and then it's torched. About 4 years ago, we got a grant, this is an innovative grant, to look at, well, how do you address this issue? Why hasn't there been sustainable markets for agricultural film? And so we worked with a couple of farmers in the north part of the state and ran a quick little pilot to look at, all right, can you collect this stuff out of the field, and what can you do with it? So we worked with one of the farmers that also grew tobacco, and he had what he called a tobacco baler, and where they would pile the tobacco out of the field and bale it and then ship it off for markets. So we took advantage of that tobacco baler and collected the film and made this nice looking bale. It weighed about 1,300 to 1,500 pounds. But what you think is a great bale of film is far from it. It's roughly 60 to 70% contamination, soil contamination. And you look at that and you say, there's no way, that looks like it's all plastic. But I can assure you it is. As part of our market process, we worked again with Swanee American Cement and sent them 3,500 tons of agricultural plastic film. After they ran through the first 1,000 as part of their air permitting pretrial, they said, thank you, but I don't want any more agricultural film. It was costing them roughly $16,000 a week just in blade replacements. And after looking at it, they said, something's going on with this. Why is this so abrasive on our equipment? In addition to sending the material to them, we sent it all over the place. We've sent bales of material to China, Taiwan, Mexico, of all places, Romania, Oklahoma, Texas, and it's always been the same problem. It's never a sustainable solution with this product. Part of the problem has to do with what's on the film. What you're looking at right now is a microscopic view of virgin film. It hasn't been put on the ground. And you can see this micro pattern that you see built into the film. It gives the film strength so that they can stretch it over that bed and tuck it underneath the ground. Part of the problem with it, and this is the same picture, the same film, you see all those little squares are filled in. This is a micro filler that comes out from the soil. What you see in that upper portion right there is a grain of sand. So that tells you how small those micro patterns are. It's kind of hard to imagine they can actually create something like that. But there is a tremendous amount of soil contamination related to that film. This is just an example. As part of the process, they took a square foot of material, they put it in a beaker, they boiled it out. What you see on the left is the film after they generate it, and what you see on the right is the soil that's generated from that. So we know for a fact that it's 60 to 70% soil contamination. I'm going to point out one potential solution to this. Well, let me come back, let me finish this, but a couple of things. What we looked at is, all right, you're generating all this soil as part of the collection process. How do you leave that soil where it should be in the first place, and that is on the farm? So I met this gentleman, his name is Norman Milner, and he has developed a process to extract the film automatically. So he's got a piece of equipment that goes down for these large cherry tomatoes. There's stakes, so they grow the plants, there's these stakes that go in the ground. And they wrap the tomato plant up around those stakes as it grows up. So you can't take a tractor and drive over these things. These things are 6 feet tall when they get through growing. So Norm developed a piece of equipment to go through and extract the film. We developed a piece of equipment to go in for the lower beds, and this is in Immokalee, where we're driving through and rolling up film. Currently working with the strawberry fields right now in the Plant City area, doing a couple of trials with them, extracting the film, pulling it up, and basically laying it down and then coming back and rolling it up into what Norm calls a tight roll. Norm worked in the carpet and paper mill industries. He has invented technologies to extract material off of rolls, and he knows how to do that really, really well. And so as part of designing this process, we looked at what are we going to do at the end room once we get these rolls out of the fields. How do you then recycle it? Real quickly, this to kind of give you an example. Oh, they're not linked. All right, so I'll show you afterwards, maybe after the conclusion of this workshop. Norm takes those tight rolls and he creates, through a dry cleaning process, and creates these little micro bales that he's then able to market. And it reduces the soil contamination substantially. And at that point, it creates a market for the material. In addition to agricultural mulch, one of the other projects that we've worked on, and this is kind of a pet peeve of mine, is motor oil containers. As everybody in this room knows, there's not really a good market for motor oil containers with regard to collection of them. What you think is an empty container roughly contains an ounce of oil. EPA estimates that there are approximately 10 motor oil containers per person in the United States. We've got 18 million people here in the state of Florida. It's probably grown, probably over that now. That equates to 180 million containers generated annually. With 1 ounce of oil in them, that comprises 2.8 million gallons of virgin fuel that we're disposing of annually here in the state. For an entire year, I worked with a super lube up in Tallahassee to collect them. Every Friday I'd go and collect them, and we tried to figure out a way to empty the containers and come up with just some initial trials to figure out what's the best way to get the oil out of the containers. Again, you can see how virgin this material is. Very, very clean. Has a great value to it. Can't be resold. Worked with a developer from a company called Recycle Tech, who I'm going to show you some other equipment that they've developed here in the state. and created this little instrument right here. It's basically a shredder which drops the oil containers down into a basket which has a reservoir that you can extract out. At that point, we can either market that plastic right there. It still needs to be washed because of the viscosity of the oil. It adheres to the plastic shreds, but it does allow it to be marketed. We actually used this material as a fuel source. And at the end, you can then drain the oil out of the reservoir. Other areas that we've run into real quickly, carpet, in some of the C&D waste, creating an alternative fuel to be used by the cement kilns. I was at a meeting last week real quickly regarding plastic bags and how you deal with that. What we ended up, after a couple of beers, I was helping the glass industry, we looked at trying to figure out how you densify those plastic bags. And I've got some examples here I can show people, but we're working on some equipment right now or technology to densify plastic bags to make it economical to ship. Expanded polystyrene, there is a plant, this is Recycle Tech's plant in Polk County. This is going after post-industrial scrap expanded polystyrene, where they basically grind the styrene up, blow it into a holding container, and then extrude out a densified version of the expanded polystyrene. This is the end product that they market. What happens every year in March in Tallahassee? Come on, somebody. The legislative process. What happens after they change Florida statutes? Florida statutes generates a piece of equipment or a piece of a waste stream that goes out the door every year. And we've been working with the Florida Bar to extract these, and this has been going on now for about 10 years, where we extract hardbound books, and currently working with a couple of Goodwills throughout the state to try to develop a marketing plan for recycling hardbound books and create higher value in the book itself because you get a better price for them. So I know I'm out of time, so Big D, I'm going to turn it back over to you.